We also are working closely with other federal agencies, our state partners, and our local police partners as well. Again, at this time, we are not prepared to identify who the shooter is. We are close to that identification, and as soon as we are 100% confident in who that individual is, we will share it with the press. With that being said, also, we do not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to attempt to identify what that motive was. At this time, I'm going to turn over the podium to Colonel Chris Paris from the Pennsylvania State Police.
Thank you very much. My name is Colonel Chris Paris, P-A-R-I-S, Commissioner of Pennsylvania State Police. I would just like to say that the State Police have been in regular contact with the Governor's office, and the full support and assets of the entire agency are behind the FBI and our other federal and municipal partners to assist with this investigation. The thoughts and prayers of the Pennsylvania State Police are likewise with the victims of this terrible act. We are prepared to support this investigation in any way, shape, or form, and we stand ready to participate in a full, fair, and competent and thorough investigation. To give you an operational rundown, Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens, is behind me, and he will discuss the operational portion that's being conducted by the Pennsylvania State Police. Lieutenant Colonel Bivens.
Good evening. So let me describe for you a little bit about the scene that we have over there. As you know, there was a grandstand, a very large area, a lot of people there when this all unfolded. The former president had come out and begun to speak shortly after 6 o'clock this evening, and within about 10 to 15 minutes, a number of sounds were heard, and it became apparent that shots were being fired in that direction. It was a chaotic scene. Law enforcement, I believe, acted heroically, quickly identifying and neutralizing the threat, as well as responding to assist the various victims. PSP had a significant presence on the scene along with all of our federal partners at the time of the shooting. We have since enhanced that presence significantly, bringing in resources from all over the Commonwealth to ensure that we have a speedy, thorough investigation. We are working very closely with the FBI as we work through this. As you can imagine, because of the variety of crimes that have been committed, some are under federal jurisdiction, some are under state jurisdiction. And so, we're working through all of that, not an issue at all. We work seamlessly, but the FBI has maintained the lead on the attempted assassination. PSP will take the lead on the homicide and the shootings of the other individuals in the grandstand area. And so there are a lot of witnesses to be interviewed, a lot of things to be processed. There were some complicators that hopefully the next time we speak we can describe for you, but some complicators that slowed down some of the processing and the positive identification of the shooter. But know that at this time we have no reason to believe that there is any other existing threat out there. We are doing everything we can to make sure that this is thoroughly investigated, and that if there is any information developed that anyone else was involved, that between PSP and the FBI, that will very quickly be followed up on. So I think at this time we would open it up to questions from all of you.
Was this a lone wolf attack?
Again, I think it's too early to say that. We have one shooter tentatively identified, but we're not stopping there. We're following up on a lot of information. It will be some time until we can conclusively say or answer that question, I think. Again, that will all be part of the investigation, but that will all be part of the investigation. But I can tell you that preliminarily, it appears everything unfolded very quickly. So, again, we'll have more information on that, but it's just too early to start definitively saying this happened at this exact time.
Inside the security perimeter, right? That building design is outside of the...
That's correct.
How far outside?
We'll have that information for you. It was some distance outside of the security
Colonel, can you
perimeter.
comment on reports that there were people who saw someone on the roof and tried to alert authorities?
We're following up on those. I will tell you that I am aware of those, and I am aware that law enforcement had responded to a number of reports of suspicious activity. The specific response to this will be all part of the after action, but yes, law enforcement was responding to check on several suspicious occurrences.
What were the other suspicious occurrences?
That'll all be part of the investigation.
So you said that you're close to identifying the shooter. Could you at least confirm that he is from Butler County, Pennsylvania? Is there anything else? Did he have any affiliation with that company, do you know?
So again, we're not prepared at this time to provide the identity of the potential shooter. We're in the process of doing the confirmation, and once we have the confirmation, we'll release the name officially to the press. But at this time, we can't give any further information on the potential shooter. No, it's a matter of doing biometric confirmations. So there was no identification on the individual, as an example. We're looking at photographs right now, and we're trying to run his DNA and get biometric confirmation on it.
Would you be able to comment on just what police found left behind? Like any possible devices? Did you find any extra guns? Just anything else you'd be willing to comment?
Not at this time, no. We're still in the process of an active investigation, so we'd like to reserve releasing any information like that until we have more facts.
Today, was there any heightened threat level or critical threat level that you guys were aware of more so than what is typical for an event like this?
From the FBI's perspective, no. We did not have any specific threat information related to this event.
Can I ask, you talked about how it happened so quickly, and we know that there is at least 2 casualties, including the gunman at this point, that we're aware of. It could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely.
Are
Oh,
you
absolutely.
able to comment more about that and how it was taken care of so quickly?
So I think the credit goes to not only the Secret Service, who was on site, but also the state and local partners who were there on site and were able to react immediately when the incident occurred.
Do you know how many officers fired their weapons?
I do not.
I understand that it's very early and there's still going to be a lot of questions, but I mean, is this a failure of security?
Really, at this point, we're not going to make that assessment. There's an active investigation. A lot of things need to occur investigatively to make those determinations of what, if any, failures there were. So we can't comment on that at this time.
So you can't say if Secret Service had checked those buildings, or we're keeping a close eye, or?
Really have to defer to Secret Service for those questions.
Was there enforcement at the AGR property prior to the event? Like, were there police at that location at any point during the event?
Are you saying the location where the shooter was located?
Yes.
I don't have any information on that. You'd have to defer to Secret Service.
When do you think you will release? When will the name of the shooter be released? I mean, any inkling of when that might happen, tomorrow, or?
So that'll be, as soon as we've confirmed 100%, we're willing to release that. So if we have, as far as the contact information for the press, we should be able to do that within the next few hours, I imagine.
There was a vehicle being checked not far from here. We've also heard a possible related scene in Bethel Park. Is there anything you can tell us tonight about other areas where law enforcement may be searching in relation to this event?
Again, right now, we're tracking down all leads and doing all interviews and tracking anything that we can regarding suspicious locations, vehicles, locations, interviewing individuals. So it's all related to this event, but I can't confirm or deny anything that's going on beyond that.
Can you tell us about the weapon that the shooter used?
As far as the details of the weapon,
Yeah, what kind of rifle was it?
do you want to comment on that?
What did he use?
No, until it's confirmed, I wouldn't comment on it.
Okay, until we have the confirmation of who the shooter is, and we'll release that as part of the investigative details later.
You said the FBI is going to make
extra resources, and one of the things that you said was bomb technician. So is this standard procedure, or do you have reason to believe that there are bombs somewhere in Butler County? Can you just walk us through that?
It's primarily standard procedure of any suspicious packages. In this case, there was identification of suspicious packages around where the shooter was, and so we deployed, in an abundance of caution, bomb assets to make sure that those were cleared for investigators to move safely in the area. We're still working on, it's still an active crime scene, so I'm not going to say that the scene is 100% clear at this time.
Why are there any Secret Service agents here right now for this press conference?
So Secret Service wasn't available for the press conference at this time.
I understand what packages are you talking about? You're talking about packages, but the suspicious packages like what here, here.
Really anything. I don't have specifics on what they were looking at, but you know, there's people in the crowd will leave bags as they're fleeing the scene like this. So any suspicious packages we have to treat as it may be an explosive device.
And how quickly, this was, I guess, the Secret Service, we're not here to talk about, I guess, but when you guys jumped into action, all law enforcement and were able to take down that shooter, how quickly did everybody jump in and who ended up taking him out?
So it was immediate, and we're still trying to figure that out. So we'll wait till we have more definitive information regarding that investigatively.
What about the bystander, the person in the crowd? Do you have any information about how they were killed?
My understanding was it was from the shooter, but again, those will be details that are released later.
Do you search homes or apartments as a part of your method of identifying the individual?
So if that's where the leads take us, absolutely.
Was Donald Trump hit with a bullet, do you know for sure, or was it potentially something else that could have?
I don't have that specific information as far as the injuries to the former president.
I understand you're not releasing the suspect's identification right now, but as you know, is this person known to you guys? Is he somebody that you guys have been looking at through the threats he's possibly made online, et cetera, et cetera?
Again, the information that we currently have, we're looking at that obviously very intently, and as we know that information, we'll release that as well. So we'll need to plan another time for a follow-up press conference. We're looking at all investigative leads and everything from, and that's why we asked the public, because I'm sure there'll be cell phone video, there'll be all kinds of information that we'll use to fully flesh out exactly what happened here.
I know you're saying you can't say what type of a gun it is, but do you know how many shots were fired?
I don't.
And
I don't have that information as far as, that'll come out in the investigation as well.
Is there identification tonight on the other victims?
As far as the civilians,
Civilians that were injured and killed?
yeah.
So we do have identification on those. We're not prepared to release it at this time. We have notified a number of family members, but they have not had an opportunity to notify extended family and things. I would confirm for you that we did have one individual killed, and I know I heard somebody say about 2 victims. There were 3 in total besides the former president. So 2 critically wounded, 1 killed.
At this point, do you know if they were sitting near each other and where in relation to the former president were?
I don't have their exact seating by individual. Again, that'll all be part of the investigation, but their shots were scattered somewhat, and so they weren't just into one particular location.
you're saying just one fatality as of right now?
Yes,
The shooter and one fatality.
the shooter plus 1 fatality.
Oh, thank you.
So there was 1 victim of the shooter who was killed, and then the shooter was killed.
And then 2 critical.
Yes, ma'am.
Witnesses say they saw a semi-automatic rifle used by the shooter. Can you share any more details of it? That's what
I've heard those reports as well, and again, we do have a good idea of what the weapon was, but again, that's all part of the ongoing investigation. And I'm not trying to be cagey about that. You know, when the SAC talked about the need to be very methodical and to be cautious with that scene, we are doing just that. We don't want anybody else getting hurt, and candidly, there are some concerns that we'll be able to talk more about later on, about just what those concerns are and continue to be.
Have you talked to the shooter's family yet?
That's all part of the investigation.
After the event, there were a lot of really angry people. Are you monitoring? Have there been any threats in response to this? Are you worried? Have there been any specific threats?
That's certainly a concern, and we're monitoring that whole situation. I mentioned that we're bringing a lot of assets to bear, and so like the FBI utilizing their analysts, we also have the Pennsylvania Criminal Intelligence Center. We will utilize the resources of our intelligence division and the Criminal Intelligence Center to be able to monitor for concerns about any threats, regardless of the side of the issue or the political spectrum. We want to make sure that we try and avoid any further violence.
But no, nothing specific so far?
No, sir.
Without identifying them by name, can you say anything about the other folks who were injured or killed? Were they adults, men, male, female, anything at all?
They were adults, and they're male.
All three?
Yes.
How difficult the day is just for your department now, where all your departments get to go talk to these family members, including the civilians who were gunned down while they just went to a rally to try and, celebrate against the upcoming election? What are those conversations like, and how do you kind of get through that?
We have trained investigators, and we're partnered hand in hand with the FBI, again, because we've got some federal violations, some state violations, and so our investigators are going out methodically. We have a large team of investigators that are going out, dividing up these interviews and trying to conduct them as quickly as possible, and then there will be follow-ups. With the FBI asking for people to call in tips, I have no doubt that we will receive a lot of additional information that will also require follow-up. But again, we're working very well together, and it's only a short matter of time until we get through all of those interviews.
How close a call was it for President Trump?
There were no police hit with bullets.
From your experience, how close a call was it for?
I'm not going to speculate or comment on that.
Have any of you talked to the president? Did any of you have any kind of reaction?
No.
No.
Which law enforcement agencies were tasked with securing this particular rally outside of the United States Secret Service?
Well, Secret Service always has the lead on securing something like this, but then they work very closely. And I hate to use the word routine, but it is a fairly routine matter for all of our agencies to work jointly with the Secret Service. And it really depends on the venue, on what information is out there, what number of resources are devoted to it, and we work with them to provide whatever is requested by the Secret Service, but they're the lead in that security.
Was there anything about this venue that made it particularly difficult to secure?
I would defer to the Secret Service to answer that. They would have done the initial assessment.
Was the rooftop part of what was being secured? Was the rooftop, given its proximity to the event, part of that process?
It's my understanding that was outside of the perimeter.
Did this shooter have any previous criminal history?
We're not going to comment on anything about the shooter.
Did any agency deny Trump's team extra security? Any of the agencies that are up there?
Not that I'm aware of.
If Trump had been the nominee already, would he have had additional security for this event?
There again, Secret Service has the lead, and I'm not going to comment or speculate on what may or may not be provided at any given point, depending on their status as a candidate. What I will tell you is that in my experience, the Secret Service does an excellent job of maintaining security on protectees. They're very cautious. They don't hesitate to ask for resources, and candidly, we don't hesitate to supply those resources.
Deputy Colonel, you're asking for the public's help. Can you elaborate and be more specific about what you would really like to see from the public, if it's videos, photos, personal accounts?
I think the videos and photos would be very helpful, and I think that once the shooter is identified, anyone that has specific information on that shooter, that would be very helpful as well to help us assess motive. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we are absolutely not taking for granted that this was a lone wolf attack, and so we would be looking for any additional information that might point us toward anybody else that may have had a hand in this.
Sir, at this point, what is the main focus of the investigation? What's the most important thing for you right now, a few hours?
Well, there's not any one single focus. I mean, certainly the immediate focus was life safety, getting the former president out of there and to care, getting care to the other victims, and trying to secure the scene as quickly as possible. It shifted then from a life safety priority to then an investigative priority. And so I guess if I had to point to where we are right now, the single greatest priority would be to identifying a motive and whether there was anyone else involved.
We're just beginning the political season. Are you guys concerned with all of these rallies that happen and how they're set up? Is this going to change maybe the venues?
Again, I would refer you to the Secret Service in terms of what they work out with the campaigns. We will continue to supply resources, as I'm sure the FBI will, and local partners as well.
When this was announced, it was, there was quite a few days of a heads up that people were getting ready to come to this Trump rally. From a law enforcement perspective, when you announce a big event like this, all that time in advance, like a week out, does it give people more time to plan something like this?
I suppose, but there's a balance, I would think, that any of the campaigns on either side try to weigh. I mean, the point of them announcing it, I suspect, is because they want the crowd, and so it's not up to us in law enforcement to tell them when they should announce or how they should announce or how they should conduct it. We offer our best advice, again, working hand in hand with the Secret Service, offer our best advice of how best to secure and protect that venue.
Sir, considering how many people were there, and you have packed in there, and you have somebody in an elevated position with potentially a high-powered rifle, how lucky is it that we were only talking about a couple of victims, as sad and tragic as that is?
Well, we're certainly grateful that we don't have even more victims. And again, in terms of how this could have occurred, that will be part of this after-action report and an investigation that occurs so that we can hopefully ensure that something like this doesn't happen again.
Has an autopsy been conducted yet, or is it scheduled?
It has not been conducted yet. I do not.
If somebody has video or photos, where should they send it?
So we have the 1-800 call FBI if you have audio tips, and then we set up a specific tip line for audio and video, and that's fbi.gov/Butler.
And they should send you just like any video?
Anything that anyone has that is related to this incident that they think may be of assistance investigatively, we'll take anything and we'll analyze it, and we'll make the determination if it's of investigative value. Go ahead.
So from what you've been briefed on, it sounds like law enforcement only knew he was up there until shots were fired. Is that what you're hearing?
So that is the assessment at this time.
So are you surprised that a sniper was able to fire off a handful of shots at the former president? I mean,
again, we're still working through the security apparatus that the Secret Service had in place, what potentially happened. There's going to be a long investigation into exactly what took place and how the individual was able to get access to the location, what type of weapon he had. All that is really days, weeks, and months of investigation.
he was able to get off like 4 or 5 shots.
It is surprising, but again, to get all the details of that will come out later in an investigation.
Going back to the perimeter of this building, I think it's going to be really difficult for people to understand that this building, with a very high vantage point, some 100 meters away from where this is happening, isn't part of that perimeter. What goes into that conversation over what is in and out and why wouldn't that be?
Again, the Secret Service really needs to answer that question. They conduct the initial site survey. They do the initial security assessments and determine where the different security locations should be, and they're the ones who are in charge of securing the scene. We, along with other state and local assets, are there to support the Secret Service and their mission.
How many troopers and agents were at the rally, obviously before the shooting, and how is that number determined, and should perhaps there have been more?
So I don't have the specific numbers. I doubt you do as well.
No, I can speak just for PSP. We've had physically on site there, probably 30 to 40 members of PSP, but we also have additional resources in the area. We utilize aviation, for example, and a variety of other resources, dogs to sweep beforehand that really aren't counted in that. And again, the number is driven by what the request is from the Secret Service. You know, just in their defense, I mean, what I would want to say is it is incredibly difficult to have a venue open to the public and to secure that against any possible threat, against a very determined attacker. That's a huge lift to try and do it. And, you know, again, the investigation will really give us an opportunity to take a look at where any failures occurred and what can be done better in the future.
Lieutenant Colonel Bivens, do you know when another briefing might be held?
We don't have one scheduled, but I would tell you we will let you know and give you plenty of notice. Certainly, as soon as additional things develop that would be noteworthy or of interest to you, we'll get that scheduled and have another with you.
Locally, what can residents, businesses expect to happen with the investigation over the next couple of days? Like, what's going to be going on there that people can...
Well, again, the interviews will all be occurring, and so they may see law enforcement in their communities. People came from a wide area to come to this rally, I'm told. So, you know, there's going to be law enforcement fanning out, and as additional calls, photos, videos come in, you know, those additional interviews will result in law enforcement being out in the community conducting those interviews. But otherwise, they really shouldn't see any other significant impact in the community.
Can you confirm whether it's a male or female, the homicide, the bystander who died?
It's a male.
A male?
Yes.
I'm from a European outlet from Poland, and I'm already getting text messages from, you know, back home, and people are asking, how could this happen? What's going on in America? I know that it's a philosophical question, but how could you talk to the people outside the United States about what happened here in Butler?
Well, again, what I would say is a tragic incident that occurred. We're not in a position to start second-guessing how or why or anything else at this point. Just know that it will be thoroughly investigated. If there is anyone to prosecute, that will be done, and we'll move forward. But I don't have a good answer for you.
We'll just take one last question.
I know that PSP said that you guys were not aware of any additional requests from the Trump team for security. What about the FBI? Was there an additional request for additional security from the Trump team, and was that denied in any way, shape, or form?
No, there was no additional request for security that was ever denied by the FBI.
What does the FBI do in these events? Like, what is your rule?
So we showed up after the fact. We were monitoring the event, but it was once the incident occurred that we come and we take the primary jurisdiction for the investigation. Thank you. We'll, as we have additional information, we'll provide it. Thank you.
Thank you.